This is the start of a series of little old comical stories that my father told me growing up in Cumberland Gap. Now, Cumberland Gap, such a beautiful place, and those of you that don't know nothing about Cumberland Gap, it's not hard to find. It's a natural gap in the mountains here between Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia. Beautiful place, and a lot of history has passed through this gap. And this old Cumberland mountain range runs down out of Virginia. And there used to be an old road that went across this mountain, the old original 25E. But nowadays, they've got a tunnel. It's been going on for about 26 years now. So it bypassed and they abandoned the old 25E across the mountain. So we'll go back to a simpler time, back in the 30s and 40s, when my father was growing up. And like I said, this is a series of little stories that he experienced and shared with his family growing up. So I thought I would share it with you. And it's called The Little Rebel of the Gap. So this is just the start of the series. He always seemed to be getting in some kind of mischief. Just little comical stories of growing up in the Gap. Now here's what the Gap looked like back in the 30s and 40s. The little road up here to the upper corner to the right goes to Tipple. And you can see here in Tipple, back towards the Gap, you can see the Gap in the mountains. Well, he growed up as a poor little old boy here during the Depression. And he lived in a house like this. Didn't have no big farm, just lived off a small piece of land. And they had a hard time growing up. And he had a bunch of brothers, and they're always fooling around here. They'd always cobbling up something to do. Here they made an old wagon. Old original picture of the wagon. There's his brothers on it. That's him up front driving the thing. I don't think I'd get on it, it's so cobbled up. Well, anyway, they had a good time all the time. And he worked hard during the week when he wasn't in school, raising gardens, working in people's gardens and tobacco, stuff around the farms, trying to make a little money. He might make a quarter, 50 cents a week if he was lucky. And he had an old bicycle he said he'd pieced together over time with his brothers and friends and made him an old bicycle. It wasn't much, just something to get around on. So he thought he would head on through the Gap there one Saturday morning, go into Minisboro, see some of his friends, and spend his quarter, 50 cents, whatever he happened to make for the week. And you see here as he come across the mountain here, what it used to look like in the old days, just past where Cudjoe's Cave used to be, going north towards Minisboro. The old single lane road. And here's the top of it on the Minisboro side, the north side, coming down. It's a pretty good road back in that day. Wasn't much traffic, very much at all. And this was early in the morning. And there's the top of it coming over from the south to the north. And he headed over the top of it, making pretty good time. Coming down it, and got faster and faster. He thought he'd better slow down a little bit. Well, his sprocket chain jumped off. Well, then he had no brakes. Had no brakes on that old bicycle. So he started going faster and faster, and the more he hesitated and thinking about it, the faster he got. And he was really getting on. He tried to put his feet down, but he already had holes in his shoes. So it's all he could do, so he just hanging on for dear life. And he got faster and faster and faster. He got to where he was passing vehicles down through there. He couldn't go off in a ditch. It was just trees and a deep ravine down this mountain. He'd gone down this curve as fast as he could. He said he probably got up to 60, 70 miles an hour down this mountain and was scared to death, just hanging on for dear life. He couldn't stop, couldn't wreck it, couldn't do nothing else. And he rode it on down the mountain, and he finally started slowing down here just before he got into town to Minisboro, and started putting his feet down a little bit, slowing down till he stopped. And he finally made his destination here in Minisboro, made his friends, and he was scared to death. Well, he got his chain fixed at a gas station there. He said. His buddies helped him. So that's just one of the little old crazy stories that he told me growing up, that he was scared to death going down that mountain. Didn't have no brakes, couldn't stop, had no choice but to ride it. So, hope you enjoyed that little crazy story. That's just one of the little old stories of the little rebel of a gal. So I thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.